The past is full of secrets, some buried under layers of earth, others hidden in plain sight, and a few scattered across the universe itself. For centuries, we've tried to piece together the story of our world, using science, archaeology, and history to explain how things came to be. And yet, some puzzles remain stubbornly unsolved. Who built massive underground caverns with precision tools thousands of years ago? Why do ancient texts describe technologies we can't explain? And what is causing bizarre anomalies in deep space that defy the laws of physics as we know them? In this journey through ancient mysteries and scientific oddities, we'll explore strange ruins, lost technologies, and unexplained cosmic phenomena. Subterranean secrets, revisiting the Longyou caves. Beneath the hills of Zhejiang province, hidden from sight for centuries, lies a man-made wonder that has baffled researchers since its discovery. The Longyou caves, a sprawling network of underground chambers. These caves, discovered in 1992, exhibit a level of craftsmanship and engineering far ahead of their assumed time, yet no historical records mention their creation. This absence of documentation has led to intense debate and speculation. Who carved these immense chambers? How were they built with such precision? And why do they exist at all? The discovery of the Longyou caves was entirely accidental. For generations, the villagers of Xianbeikun believed that the deep pools of water in their area were natural. Some assumed they were bottomless. But in 1992, a few curious locals decided to test this belief. They pooled their resources and rented pumps to drain one of these mysterious ponds, expecting to find an ordinary dry basin at the bottom. Instead, as the water receded, an astonishing sight emerged. A vast, hand-carved underground cavern, its walls smooth and adorned with uniform chisel marks. Excited by this unexpected revelation, the villagers continued their efforts, draining more pools. To their amazement, each one concealed a similar chamber beneath its surface. In total, 24 caves were revealed, each displaying the same precise construction. The largest of these chambers reached heights of nearly 30 meters, with expansive interiors that defied the limits of what was thought possible for ancient builders. The sheer scale of the excavation was staggering. An estimated 1 million cubic meters of rock had been removed, yet no trace of where this material was dumped has ever been found. The consistency of the carvings suggests a highly skilled and organized workforce, likely following a predetermined blueprint. Each wall and ceiling is adorned with intricate parallel chisel marks, which are present throughout all 24 caves. This uniformity implies a standardized technique, possibly involving tools that were advanced for their time. The floors of the caves are smooth and level, indicating an impressive understanding of construction methods and stability. Despite their undeniable complexity, no historical records, drawings, or written accounts mention the cave's existence or their construction. This is particularly unusual in China, a civilization with one of the most meticulously recorded histories in the world. Major construction projects, especially those of this magnitude, would typically be documented, yet no inscriptions, blueprints, or references to labor forces have been found. The absence of tools or artifacts further deepens the mystery. It is as if the caves appeared out of nowhere, with no trace of their creators. Several theories attempt to explain the origin and purpose of the Longyou caves, but none provide definitive answers. One possibility is that they were used for storage, perhaps as grain silos or water reservoirs. However, the extreme depth and lack of accessibility make this impractical. Some have speculated that they were built for military defense, providing hidden strongholds in times of war. Yet the caves lack any defensive features, such as narrow entrances, hidden exits, or fortified walls. Another theory suggests a ceremonial or religious purpose. The grandeur of the caves and their meticulous design could indicate a sacred or ritualistic function. However, unlike other ancient religious sites, there are no carvings, statues, or altars inside the caves. The absence of symbolic elements makes this explanation difficult to prove. A more radical idea proposes that the caves were once part of an underground city, a hidden civilization that left no trace. This notion, while intriguing, lacks supporting evidence. No signs of long-term habitation, such as fire pits, pottery, or human remains, have been discovered. If the caves were once populated, all traces of life have disappeared. Some researchers have turned to geological explanations, questioning whether the caves could have formed naturally. However, the precision of the carvings, the intentional chisel marks, and the symmetrical layout all indicate human craftsmanship. There is no doubt that these caves were deliberately excavated. Despite being underground for centuries, they show little sign of collapse or erosion. This suggests that their builders had an advanced understanding of rock stability and possibly even moisture control. The fact that these structures have remained intact despite being submerged in water for so long hints at engineering techniques far ahead of their time. If the caves were constructed during the Qin dynasty or earlier, as some researchers believe, the tools available at the time would have been simple chisels and hammers. The amount of labor required to remove over 1 million cubic meters of rock using such basic tools would be staggering. Some estimates suggest it would have taken thousands of workers decades to complete the project. If a project of this scale took place, where did all the excavated material go? Given the volume of stone removed, large dumping sites should exist somewhere nearby, yet none have been identified. This absence has fueled speculation that the rock may have been repurposed elsewhere, possibly for construction in ancient cities. However, there is no direct evidence linking any known historical structures to the Longyou excavation. Modern technology has yet to provide clear answers. Ground-penetrating radar and sonar imaging have not revealed any additional hidden chambers or tunnels. Core samples from the cave walls confirm that they were carved directly into natural sandstone, ruling out the possibility of them being hollowed-out natural caves. Attempts to date the caves more precisely have also been inconclusive, as no organic material has been found inside. The Longyou caves challenge conventional understanding of ancient civilizations. The level of planning, skill, and manpower required to create them suggests an advanced society, yet the complete absence of records or artifacts leaves their origins shrouded in mystery. Some have even speculated that the caves were not built by any known civilization, entertaining the idea of lost knowledge or forgotten technology. However, without concrete evidence, such claims remain in the realm of speculation. Buried legends. The quest for Genghis Khan's final rest. For nearly 8 centuries, the final resting place of Genghis Khan has remained one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. The founder of the Mongol Empire, a man who reshaped the world through conquest, left behind an empire that stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the heart of Europe. Yet, despite his towering influence, his grave has never been found. Legends, historical records, and modern technology have all been used in an attempt to locate it, but the burial site remains elusive, hidden beneath the vast landscapes of Mongolia. According to historical accounts, Genghis Khan died in 1227, though the exact circumstances of his death are still debated. Some sources claim he was fatally wounded in battle, while others suggest he fell from his horse or succumbed to illness. Regardless of the cause, one thing remains certain: his burial was carried out in extreme secrecy. The Mongols believed that their great leader's tomb should never be disturbed, and they went to extraordinary lengths to ensure that it would remain hidden. One of the most well-known legends states that the funeral procession deliberately disguised its route, killing anyone they encountered along the way to prevent knowledge of the location from spreading. Some accounts even claim that thousands of horses were used to trample the land above the tomb, erasing any trace of digging. Another story suggests that a river was diverted to flow over the burial site, concealing it beneath a natural barrier. Whether these tales are exaggerated or hold some truth, they highlight the immense effort put into keeping Genghis Khan's resting place a secret. Historical texts provide only vague clues about the tomb's possible location. The most commonly accepted theory is that he was buried somewhere near the Khenti Mountains in northeastern Mongolia, a region considered sacred by the Mongols. The area, known as the Ikh Korig, or Great Taboo, was strictly off-limits to outsiders for centuries. Guarded by the Mongol elite, It was protected from explorers and grave robbers alike. Even after the Mongol Empire collapsed, the secrecy surrounding the region persisted. For centuries, the search for Genghis Khan's tomb was hindered by geography and politics. The remote, mountainous terrain made large-scale expeditions difficult. During the Soviet era, Mongolia's government, under heavy Soviet influence, discouraged any attempts to uncover the tomb, fearing that its discovery could reignite Mongol nationalism. This only added to the air of mystery surrounding the site. Modern efforts to locate the tomb have relied on advanced technology. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, and drone surveys have all been used in an attempt to identify possible burial sites. One of the most notable efforts came in the early 2000s when a team of researchers, led by American explorer Albert Yumin Lin, used satellite mapping and non-invasive archaeological techniques to scan the Khenti region. The project, which also involved local experts and volunteers, analyzed thousands of satellite images in search of unusual formations that could indicate a hidden burial site. While some promising locations were identified, no definitive proof of the tomb's existence was found. Excavations in other areas have also yielded intriguing but inconclusive results. In 2001, a joint Mongolian-Japanese team discovered an ancient tomb complex near Avraga, an area associated with Genghis Khan's early life. The site contained the remains of a large structure and several burial mounds, but none could be confirmed as belonging to the great Khan himself. Other expeditions have focused on Burkhan Khaldun, a mountain considered sacred in Mongolian tradition. Some believe this may be the true resting place of Genghis Khan, but no physical evidence has been found to confirm it. Unlike the pyramids of Egypt or the grand mausoleums of China, Genghis Khan's tomb was not meant to be seen. If it was built underground, as many suspect, it may not have any visible markers at all. The Mongols, unlike many other civilizations, did not leave behind elaborate structures to house their dead. Their burial practices focused on secrecy rather than display, making the search even more difficult. Some believe that traditional archaeology alone will not be enough, and that a combination of historical research, modern technology, and even oral traditions may be needed to uncover the truth. Others argue that the mystery should remain unsolved, respecting the wishes of Genghis Khan and his followers to keep his burial site hidden. The Mongolian government has expressed mixed views on the search, with some officials supporting exploration and others emphasizing the cultural and spiritual importance of leaving the tomb undisturbed. Lost Urban Marvels, Mohenjo-daro, Beyond the Obvious. The ruins of Mohenjo-daro rise from the plains of modern-day Pakistan, remnants of one of the world's earliest cities. Built around 4,500 years ago, this metropolis was a part of the Indus Valley civilization, a society that flourished alongside Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt. Unlike the grand pyramids or towering ziggurats of its contemporaries, Mohenjo-daro's legacy is found in its streets, its houses, and the meticulous planning that governed daily life. Long before the Roman aqueducts or the wide avenues of later civilizations, this city had a level of organization that continues to astonish. The city was built on a grid system, an unusual feature for its time. Wide streets ran straight, intersecting at right angles to create well-defined blocks. Houses were positioned carefully, varying in size but all constructed from standardized baked bricks, a material more durable than the sun-dried bricks used in other ancient settlements. These bricks, uniform in shape and size, suggest a system of mass production, pointing to an organized and highly skilled workforce. Unlike many ancient civilizations where palaces and temples dominated the skyline, Mohenjo-daro seems to have been built with a different focus: functionality and the needs of the people. Water management was a defining characteristic of the city. Nearly every house had its own private well, a feature unheard of in most early urban settlements. Underground drainage systems, lined with brick and covered with stone slabs, ran beneath the streets. These drains, some wide enough for a person to walk through, carried waste and excess water away from residential areas, preventing flooding and maintaining hygiene. Public baths were strategically placed throughout the city, the most famous being the Great Bath, a large water tank that was likely used for ritual purification. Unlike later civilizations where only the elite had access to bathing facilities, Mohenjo-daro's design suggests that cleanliness and sanitation were priorities for the entire population. Beyond its water infrastructure, the city's social organization can be inferred from its architectural patterns. Unlike Egypt, where rulers were buried in grand tombs, or Mesopotamia, where temples dominated city centers, Mohenjo-daro's structures lack clear indications of kingship or centralized rule. There is no evidence of palaces, royal tombs, or statues depicting rulers. The buildings that stand out are large halls or assembly spaces, suggesting that governance may have been communal rather than dictated by a single figure. This absence of a ruling elite, at least in an obvious form, has led some historians to believe that the Indus Valley civilization operated as a series of decentralized, well-organized communities rather than under an all-powerful monarch. Small square seals inscribed with symbols and images of animals have been found throughout the ruins. These seals, likely used for trade, contain a script that remains undeciphered. If cracked, they could reveal vital information about the city's rulers, its laws, and its connection to other civilizations. For now, they serve as silent clues to a lost language and an unknown system of administration. The discovery of materials not native to the region, such as lapis lazuli from Afghanistan and seashells from the Arabian Sea, suggests that the city was part of an extensive trade network. Unlike the economies of Egypt and Mesopotamia, which relied on vast agricultural estates controlled by the state or religious institutions, Mohenjo-daro's economy appears to have been centered around merchants and craftsmen. Workshops producing pottery, beads, and tools have been uncovered, indicating a thriving artisanal industry. These goods may have been traded both locally and with distant regions, further integrating Mohenjo-daro into the wider ancient world. The daily life of Mohenjo-daro's people can be pieced together from the artifacts they left behind. Simple yet functional tools suggest a society that valued practicality over luxury. Toys, including small carts and figurines, reveal that children had time for play. The presence of weights and measures indicates a standardized system of trade, ensuring fair transactions. These small details paint a picture of a civilization where commerce, community, and daily routines were carefully structured. One of the most debated aspects of Mohenjo-daro is its sudden decline. Unlike cities that fell due to invasion or natural disaster, there is no clear evidence of a catastrophic event that led to its abandonment. There are no signs of war, no burned buildings, no mass graves, no weapons strewn across the streets. Instead, theories point to gradual changes in the environment. Shifts in the course of the Indus River may have led to flooding or made agriculture unsustainable, forcing the population to move elsewhere. Others suggest that changes in climate, such as prolonged droughts, could have weakened the city's ability to support its residents. More controversially, some researchers have proposed that Mohenjo-daro was affected by an unknown disaster, citing scattered skeletons found in the streets. Some of these remains showed signs of sudden death, but without clear evidence of violence or disease. Speculation has ranged from ancient pandemics to extreme weather events. Whatever the cause, the city was eventually abandoned, leaving behind an urban blueprint far ahead of its time. Coral labyrinths, the forgotten world of Nan Madol. The ruins of Nan Madol stretch across the shallow waters off the coast of Pohnpei, a small island in the Pacific Ocean. Built on a series of coral islets, this mysterious city's walls, made of enormous basalt stones, rise from the sea, forming canals and pathways that once connected a thriving society. Today, the site remains largely abandoned, its history buried beneath centuries of legend and ocean tides. The basalt columns used to build its walls and foundations were not found naturally on the islets themselves. Instead, they had to be transported from the mainland of Pohnpei, where volcanic rock formations can be found. Some of these stone blocks weigh as much as 50 tons, raising questions about how they were moved without modern machinery. Theories suggest a combination of wooden sleds, rafts, and manpower, but there is no definitive proof of how such a feat was achieved. Some researchers believe that the stones were transported by rolling them over logs, while others suggest that they may have been floated to the site using bamboo rafts. The sheer size and weight of the materials make each of these methods difficult to prove. The city consists of more than 90 artificial islets, each one carefully constructed by stacking layers of coral and basalt to create stable platforms above the water. These islets are separated by a network of canals, which once allowed canoes to move easily between different parts of the city. This design suggests that water transport played a crucial role in daily life, with boats likely serving as the primary mode of travel within the settlement. Unlike other ancient cities that were built on natural land formations, Nan Madol's layout was entirely man-made, requiring careful planning and engineering knowledge. One of the largest and most significant structures at Nan Madol is the Nandawas enclosure. This area, surrounded by high stone walls, is believed to have been a royal tomb, housing the remains of powerful rulers. The design of the structure suggests a sacred purpose, with its thick walls enclosing a central platform where important figures may have been buried. The presence of burial sites throughout the complex has led many archaeologists to believe that Nan Madol served as a ceremonial and political center, reserved for the ruling elite of Pohnpei. Some scholars suggest that only high-ranking individuals lived within the city, while the rest of the population resided on the mainland, supplying food and resources to sustain the rulers and priests who occupied Nan Madol. Unlike most ancient settlements, which were built near rivers or springs, Nan Madol had no natural wells or drinking water reserves. This means that fresh water had to be transported from the mainland, a logistical challenge for any society. Some historians believe that this reliance on external resources may have played a role in the city's eventual decline. If supply routes were disrupted by conflict, environmental changes, or shifting political power, the population of Nan Madol may have been forced to abandon the site. Local legends offer another perspective on the city's origins. According to Pohnpeian oral traditions, Nan Madol was built by two powerful brothers, Olosopa and Olosipa, who arrived on the island with advanced knowledge of magic and construction. The legends describe how they used supernatural forces to lift the massive stones into place, defying gravity to create the city from nothing. While these stories may not provide a literal explanation for Nan Madol's construction, they reflect the deep cultural significance of the site to the people of Pohnpei. Recent research has suggested that structures may lie buried beneath the water and coral. Some researchers believe that additional tombs or ceremonial spaces could still be uncovered, offering new insights into the site's history. Others speculate that remnants of earlier civilizations may be hidden beneath the existing ruins, raising the possibility that Nan Madol's history stretches back further than previously thought. By the time European explorers arrived in the 19th century, the city had long been abandoned, its stone walls standing empty against the Pacific waves. Some theories suggest that changes in sea levels or natural disasters made the site uninhabitable, while others point to political shifts and conflicts among the island's rulers. Oral traditions speak of a final ruler whose oppressive rule led to the downfall of Nan Madol, but there is little archaeological evidence to confirm this story. Despite its abandonment, Nan Madol continues to hold an important place in the cultural memory of Pohnpei. The site is regarded as sacred, and many local residents believe it to be a place of spiritual power. Some even avoid visiting the ruins out of respect for the spirits said to inhabit them. These beliefs highlight the enduring connection between the island's people and their ancestors, preserving the legacy of Nan Madol even as its stone walls slowly succumb to time and the sea. Engineering puzzles of the Baalbek stones. Located in present-day Lebanon, Baalbek was a major religious center in antiquity, home to some of the grandest temples ever built. Temple of Jupiter, the Temple of Bacchus, and the Temple of Venus were constructed during the Roman period, demonstrating the empire's architectural mastery. However, beneath these later additions lies an even greater mystery. The foundation of the Temple of Jupiter contains some of the largest stone blocks ever used in construction. These massive limestone megaliths, some weighing over 1,000 tons, remain an enigma. How they were cut, moved, and precisely placed into position remains a question that has yet to be fully answered. At the heart of this mystery are three massive blocks known as the trilithon. These stones, each weighing between 800 and 1,000 tons, form part of the temple's foundation. They rest on a layer of smaller, though still enormous stones that each weigh over 400 tons. The blocks fit together so precisely that even after thousands of years, the seams between them are almost impossible to detect. The sheer scale of these stones presents a challenge even for modern engineers. Transporting such enormous weights would require advanced technology, yet these blocks were moved into place thousands of years ago without the benefit of cranes, powered machinery, or modern transportation methods. Nearby, in an ancient quarry, lies an even larger mystery. The so-called Stone of the Pregnant Woman is an unfinished limestone block, estimated to weigh around 1,000 tons. It remains partially buried in the quarry, its surface rough and incomplete. In recent years, archaeologists have uncovered additional megalithic stones in the same area, including one estimated to weigh around 1,650 tons, the largest known stone ever carved by human hands. The discovery of these blocks suggests that the builders of Baalbek were not only capable of working with stones of immense size, but were possibly preparing even larger ones for use in construction. Moving multi-ton blocks across even short distances is an extraordinary challenge. The Romans, who later built upon the site, had sophisticated engineering techniques, including cranes, pulleys, and wooden rollers. However, the trilithon and other megalithic stones predate the Roman occupation, suggesting that an earlier civilization had already mastered the logistics of moving colossal stone blocks. Theories on transportation methods range from the use of sleds and wooden rollers to complex systems of levers and counterweights. Some researchers suggest that the stones were dragged across lubricated tracks, while others propose the use of ropes and manpower in a carefully coordinated effort. Some think that the blocks may have been transported by means that are simply no longer visible, such as vast wooden scaffolding or elaborate ramp systems that have since eroded away. Regardless of the method, the precision required to align these massive stones so perfectly remains an engineering achievement that continues to puzzle experts. The surfaces of the stones are remarkably smooth and well finished. Ancient workers may have used copper or bronze chisels, along with stone hammers, but these materials would have been inefficient for shaping such massive limestone blocks. Some theories propose the use of sand abrasion, where grains of sand were used with water to grind the stone down over long periods. Others suggest that workers may have taken advantage of natural cracks in the rock, inserting wooden wedges that were then soaked with water. As the wood expanded, the rock would have split along the natural lines, allowing for easier extraction. Why such massive stones were used in the first place is another mystery. Some scholars believe that the original builders of Baalbek intended the site to be a fortress, with the large stones providing an indestructible foundation. Others suggest that the use of massive blocks was a statement of power, showcasing the engineering skills of the builders and their ability to control vast resources. The Romans, who later built their grand temples on top of the older foundation, may have recognized the strength of these earlier structures and incorporated them into their own designs. Ancient stories suggest that the site was built by supernatural beings, or giants. Some myths claim that it was the work of the biblical figure Cain, seeking refuge after being cast out. Others describe the site as one of the legendary cities of antiquity, constructed with knowledge lost to history. These tales reflect the awe that the ruins have inspired throughout history. Cryptic chronicles, deciphering the Copper Scroll's secrets. The Copper Scroll is unlike any of the other Dead Sea Scrolls. While most of the ancient texts discovered in the Qumran caves were written on parchment or papyrus, the Copper Scroll was literally engraved onto thin sheets of metal. This alone makes it unique, but what truly sets it apart is its content. Unlike the religious texts, commentaries, and sectarian writings found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Copper Scroll reads like a treasure map. It lists dozens of hidden locations, each said to contain enormous hoards of gold, silver, and valuable artifacts. Written in a distinct style, with letters chiseled into the metal instead of being penned with ink, the scroll appears to be a coded message from the past, waiting to be deciphered. Discovered in 1952 in Cave 3 of Qumran, the Copper Scroll was originally found in a highly corroded state. The metal had hardened over the centuries, making it impossible to simply unroll like the other scrolls. Researchers had to carefully cut it into separate strips in order to read its contents. When scholars first examined the text, they were struck by how different it was from the religious writings of the Essenes, the Jewish sect often associated with the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Copper Scroll did not contain prophecies or hymns. It contained instructions. The text is direct and detailed, describing a series of hiding places where treasures were supposedly buried. It lists quantities of gold and silver that are staggering in scale, over 60 tons of gold and silver combined, along with vessels, priestly artifacts, and other precious items. Each entry in the scroll provides a brief description of a location, often referencing landmarks such as aqueducts, tombs, or temple courtyards. Some entries are precise, while others are more cryptic, using phrases that remain difficult to interpret. The use of coded directions has led many to believe that the Copper Scroll was never meant for public reading, but was instead an internal document, perhaps created for a small group of individuals who knew how to decipher its meaning. Some scholars believe that it was a record of treasures from the Second Temple in Jerusalem, hidden away before the Roman destruction of the city in 70 CE. Others suggest that it predates the Roman conquest and could be linked to the treasures of the First Temple, which was destroyed by the Babylonians centuries earlier. Another theory is that the treasure belonged to the Essenes themselves. If this is the case, the treasures could have been hidden as a precaution against Roman forces, or even as part of a spiritual ritual. Despite extensive research, no significant treasure has ever been recovered based on the Copper Scroll's instructions. Many of the landmarks mentioned in the text are difficult to identify today. Some may have been destroyed over time, while others might refer to locations that were known only to those who originally hid the treasure. Archaeologists and treasure hunters alike have attempted to follow the scroll's directions, but with little success. Some searches have led to promising discoveries, such as ancient tunnels and hidden chambers, but no large caches of gold or silver have ever been confirmed. Unlike the other Dead Sea Scrolls, which were written in classical Hebrew or Aramaic, the Copper Scroll's language is somewhat different. It contains unique spellings, abbreviations, and phrasing that suggest either a distinct dialect or a deliberate attempt to obscure meaning. Some researchers believe the scroll was written by a different group than those who authored the other Qumran texts, possibly even a priestly sect that had access to temple treasures. Others argue that the linguistic differences could be due to the medium itself, as carving into metal required shorter, more concise phrasing than writing on parchment. The level of precision in the Copper Scroll's descriptions suggests that it was created by someone with first-hand knowledge of the treasure's locations. This has led to speculation that the scroll was not simply a legend or an exaggeration, but a genuine inventory. However, if the treasure was real, its fate remains unknown. Some historians believe that it may have already been discovered and looted in antiquity, either by the Romans or by other groups who came across the hiding places by chance. Others hold out hope that at least some of the hoards remain undiscovered, waiting in caves, tunnels, or buried beneath ruins that have yet to be fully excavated. The Copper Scroll has inspired numerous expeditions and studies, some led by professional archaeologists, and others by independent researchers drawn to the idea of lost treasure. Some expeditions have focused on the areas around Qumran, believing that the treasure might still be hidden within the region. Others have expanded their searches to Jerusalem and other ancient cities, based on interpretations that link the scroll's descriptions to known historical sites. Some researchers have attempted to create digital reconstructions of ancient landscapes, comparing them to the scroll's descriptions to identify potential matches. While these efforts have yielded valuable insights into the geography of the region, they have yet to lead to the discovery of the legendary treasure. Unlike other Dead Sea Scrolls, which have provided insights into religious beliefs and daily life in the ancient world, the Copper Scroll stands apart as a tantalizing puzzle, one that continues to challenge those who seek to unlock its secrets. Electric enigmas, reassessing the Baghdad battery, found in the 1930s in the vicinity of modern-day Iraq. The Baghdad battery consists of a simple clay jar, roughly the size of a hand, with a copper cylinder and an iron rod inside. Some researchers believe that this ancient object, dating back nearly 2,000 years to the Parthian or Sasanian period, might represent an early form of electrical technology. The jar itself is unassuming, with signs of wear that suggest it was once filled with liquid. The copper tube fits snugly inside, and the iron rod runs through its center, held in place by what appears to have been an asphalt stopper. These elements together resemble the basic structure of a modern electrochemical cell, a simple battery. The idea that this jar could have generated electricity is not far-fetched. If an acidic liquid, such as vinegar or fermented grape juice, had been poured into the jar, it could have acted as an electrolyte, triggering a chemical reaction between the copper and iron. In theory, this reaction would have produced a small electrical charge, similar to how early batteries functioned in the 18th and 19th centuries. The question that immediately arises is, why would an ancient civilization have needed a battery? Electricity was not formally studied until the Enlightenment period, nearly 2 millennia later. If the Baghdad battery was indeed an energy-producing device, what was it used for? Some scholars suggest that it might have had a practical purpose, such as electroplating. Electroplating is the process of coating one metal with a thin layer of another, often gold or silver. In theory, an object dipped into an acidic bath, with the battery providing a weak electrical current, could have been gilded or plated in a thin metallic layer. While no direct evidence of electroplating using such methods has been found in Mesopotamian or Persian artifacts, the idea remains a possibility. Another theory is that the battery had a more symbolic or religious function. Ancient civilizations often held mystical beliefs about natural forces, including magnetism and static electricity. It is possible that the battery was used in rituals, either to create small electrical shocks that were interpreted as divine signs, or to produce mild sensations that enhanced religious experiences. If this was the case, then the Baghdad battery was not necessarily a tool for technology, but rather an instrument used for spiritual or ceremonial purposes. Skeptics argue that the Baghdad battery may not have been a battery at all. Some believe it was simply a common storage vessel that happened to contain metallic elements for reasons unrelated to electricity. The copper and iron pieces could have been inserted later, or they might have served some unknown function in storing liquids or preserving certain substances. Without definitive proof of its use, the idea that it was an ancient electrical device remained speculative. In the 20th century, scientists attempted to recreate the artifact, filling replicas of the jar with acidic liquids and measuring the electrical output. These tests confirmed that, under the right conditions, the battery could produce a voltage of around 1 to 2 volts. While this is a small amount of energy by modern standards, it is enough to support the idea that the device could have had a purpose beyond simple storage. Some researchers propose that if the Baghdad battery was part of a larger system, multiple jars could have been connected together to create a stronger electrical output. This setup resembles early voltaic piles, the first true batteries developed in the 19th century. If such a system existed in the ancient world, it would suggest a far greater understanding of electricity than historians currently acknowledge. However, no evidence of large-scale electrical applications has been found. Theories about the Baghdad battery have fueled broader discussions about lost knowledge and forgotten technologies. Some researchers wonder if ancient civilizations had a deeper understanding of natural energy than previously thought, but much of that knowledge was lost over time. Others caution against reading too much into isolated artifacts, arguing that without additional evidence, the battery remains an interesting but inconclusive curiosity. The Baghdad battery challenges assumptions about what ancient people knew and what they were capable of achieving. Whether it was used for electroplating, religious ceremonies, or something entirely different, its existence suggests that there are still gaps in our understanding of ancient science. Ancient computation, the intricacies of the Antikythera mechanism. Found in 1901 In the remains of an ancient Greek shipwreck near the island of Antikythera, the Antikythera mechanism is an intricate device that, at first glance, appeared to be a corroded and broken mass of bronze. But as scientists studied it, they uncovered something extraordinary: a mechanical device with a level of complexity unlike anything else from the ancient world. Over a century later, researchers now believe it was a highly advanced astronomical calculator, capable of predicting celestial events with remarkable accuracy. The mechanism consists of a series of interlocking gears made of bronze, each carefully designed to fit into a larger system of rotation. When the device was first examined, its true purpose was not immediately clear. The heavily corroded fragments made it difficult to determine how the gears functioned. Early theories ranged from it being a simple navigation tool to a piece of unknown machinery. But as imaging technology improved, researchers discovered that the gears moved in precise ways, tracking the movements of the Sun, Moon, and possibly even the planets. The breakthrough came when scientists were able to reconstruct how the device operated. The Antikythera mechanism functioned by turning a hand crank, which set the gears into motion. As the gears moved, they rotated a series of dials that displayed astronomical information. The device could predict solar and lunar eclipses, track the position of the Moon and Sun in the sky, and follow the movements of the zodiac constellations. Some evidence even suggests that it accounted for the irregular motion of the Moon, a concept that would not be formally understood until centuries later. One of the most remarkable aspects of the mechanism is its use of differential gearing, a feature not known to have existed until the development of modern clocks in the Middle Ages. Differential gearing allows two different motions to be combined into one, making it possible for the mechanism to track complex astronomical cycles. The level of precision required to create such gears suggests that Greek engineers had a much deeper understanding of mechanics than previously believed. Small Greek letters are engraved on its surfaces, explaining how to use the mechanism and what each dial represents. These inscriptions have helped researchers determine that the device was not just a theoretical model, but a practical tool used for astronomical calculations. Some scholars believe it may have been used for teaching purposes, allowing scholars or navigators to predict celestial events and understand the mechanics of the heavens. Others suggest it may have been used for setting religious calendars, organizing festivals, or even assisting in navigation by tracking the stars. The level of craftsmanship required to build the Antikythera mechanism begs the obvious question: who made it? Some researchers believe it was created by a team of skilled Greek engineers, possibly in the city of Rhodes, which was known for its advances in astronomy and mechanics. Others speculate that the device was influenced by earlier knowledge from Babylonian astronomers, who had been tracking celestial movements for centuries. The Greek scientist Hipparchus, who lived in the 2nd century BCE, is often linked to the mechanism because of its advanced understanding of lunar motion, which closely matches his own theories. However, there is no definitive evidence connecting him directly to its construction. The discovery of the Antikythera mechanism has changed the way historians view ancient technology. Before its discovery, it was widely believed that mechanical devices of this complexity did not exist until the Renaissance. The mechanism challenges this assumption, proving that ancient civilizations were capable of remarkable feats of engineering and computation. It suggests that there may have been other devices like it, now lost to history. Attempts to recreate the mechanism using ancient methods have shown just how advanced its creators were. Modern reconstructions, built using only tools available in ancient Greece, demonstrate that the mechanism was a product of sophisticated craftsmanship and knowledge. The precision of its gears and the complexity of its functions indicate a deep understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and mechanical design. The shipwreck that contained the Antikythera mechanism has yielded other treasures, including statues, coins, and pottery, but nothing as technologically advanced as the mechanism itself. Some researchers believe that the device was being transported as part of a collection of valuable objects, possibly intended for a wealthy individual or a center of learning. The fact that no other examples of such mechanisms have been found raises the possibility that similar devices existed but were either destroyed, lost, or melted down for their metal. Modern research into the Antikythera mechanism continues with new imaging techniques. High-resolution X-ray scans have uncovered previously unreadable inscriptions, providing further clues about how the device was used. The ongoing study of this ancient computer continues to reshape our understanding of Greek technology, raising questions about what other forgotten inventions may still lie undiscovered beneath the sands of history. Physics on the edge, the flyby anomaly, explored. The flyby anomaly refers to unexplained changes in the speed of spacecraft as they pass by Earth. NASA and other space agencies use flybys as a way to give spacecraft an extra boost, using Earth's gravity to increase their velocity and adjust their trajectory. This technique, known as a gravitational assist, has been used for decades to send probes deeper into the solar system without using excessive fuel. But in some cases, spacecraft have gained more speed than expected, and scientists still do not fully understand why. The anomaly was first noticed in 1990, when NASA's Galileo spacecraft performed a flyby of Earth on its way to Jupiter. After analyzing data from the maneuver, scientists found that Galileo's speed was slightly higher than predicted. At first, this small difference did not seem significant, but over time, similar anomalies were observed in other missions. The near-Shoemaker spacecraft, which was sent to study the asteroid Eros, also experienced an unexpected change in velocity during its Earth flyby in 1998. In 2005 and 2007, the Rosetta and Cassini missions recorded similar effects. These unexplained accelerations were not random, but seemed to follow a pattern, suggesting that something in our current understanding of physics might be incomplete. The effect is subtle but measurable. For some spacecraft, the difference in velocity is just a few millimeters per second. While this may seem small, precision is crucial in spaceflight. Engineers calculate every detail of a mission with extreme accuracy, so even the tiniest deviation can raise questions. The fact that multiple missions have shown similar discrepancies suggests that this is not a simple measurement error. Scientists have explored several possible explanations. One idea is that the anomaly is caused by the uneven shape of Earth's gravitational field. Earth is not a perfect sphere, and its mass is not distributed evenly. This means that as a spacecraft moves through Earth's gravity, small variations in the planet's mass might cause unpredictable effects. However, detailed models of Earth's gravity field have been developed, and they do not fully explain the observed differences in speed. Another possible explanation involves atmospheric drag. Even at high altitudes, there are still tiny amounts of air particles that could interact with a spacecraft and alter its speed. However, most of the spacecraft that experienced the flyby anomaly were traveling far above the atmosphere, where air resistance is minimal. If atmospheric effects were responsible, the anomaly should be much weaker or non-existent in those cases, but the pattern of speed changes does not match this explanation. Some researchers have suggested that thermal radiation could be a factor. Spacecraft generate heat, and if this heat is radiated unevenly, it could create a small amount of thrust, changing the spacecraft's velocity. This has been observed in other missions, such as the Pioneer anomaly, where heat from the spacecraft itself caused tiny but measurable changes in its trajectory. However, calculations show that thermal radiation alone is unlikely to account for the full effect seen in the flyby anomaly. Some have wondered if the anomaly could be a sign of new physics, possibly related to unknown forces or variations in the way gravity behaves on small scales. Others have suggested that the anomaly might be linked to relativistic effects, subtle distortions in space and time predicted by Einstein's theory of general relativity. While relativity is already factored into spacecraft calculations, it is possible that there are effects we do not yet fully understand. One interesting idea is that the anomaly might be connected to the way Earth's rotation affects spacetime. According to Einstein's theory, massive rotating objects like Earth create a twisting effect in spacetime known as frame dragging. This effect has been confirmed by experiments, but some researchers think that it could interact with a spacecraft's motion in ways that are not yet accounted for in existing models. Despite years of research, no single explanation has been able to fully account for the flyby anomaly. Some spacecraft have experienced the effect, while others have not, making it difficult to identify a consistent pattern. Without a clear answer, scientists continue to study the problem, analyzing new data from future space missions. The mystery of diffuse interstellar bands. Diffuse interstellar bands, or DIBs, are strange absorption lines that appear in the light from distant stars, creating dark bands in the spectrum that do not correspond to any known element or simple molecule. Unlike the well-understood absorption features of hydrogen, helium, or other atoms found in space, DIBs seem to come from a more complex and unidentified source. The first recorded observations of DIBs date back to 1919, when American astronomer Mary Leah Heeger noticed unusual absorption features while studying binary stars. At first, these bands were considered minor anomalies, but as technology improved, astronomers began identifying more of them. Over time, the list of DIBs grew longer. By the late 20th century, hundreds of these absorption bands had been detected at different wavelengths. Today, scientists have catalogued over 500 separate DIBs, making them one of the most extensively documented mysteries in astrophysics. They appear in nearly every direction of the sky, affecting the light from stars across the Milky Way and even beyond our galaxy. The fact that these bands are found in so many locations suggests that whatever causes them must be a common component of interstellar space. But despite this, no single substance has been definitively linked to their formation. The interstellar medium, the vast space between stars, is not empty. It is filled with gas, dust and molecules that form clouds stretching for hundreds of light years. This medium plays a crucial role in the life cycle of stars, as it provides the raw material for new stars to form while also carrying remnants of old, exploded stars. Scientists believe that the carrier of DIBs must be something present in this interstellar material, absorbing light at very specific wavelengths. One of the earliest theories proposed that DIBs might be caused by simple elements like sodium or calcium, but detailed analysis showed that their absorption patterns did not match those of any known atomic species. This led researchers to consider more complex molecules. Among the strongest candidates are large organic compounds called polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs. These carbon-based molecules are widespread in space, forming in the cooling gas ejected from dying stars. PAHs are known to absorb ultraviolet light and are thought to play a role in the chemistry of planetary systems. While PAHs are promising candidates, no single PAH has been identified that matches all of the observed DIBs. This has led scientists to consider the possibility that DIBs may arise from a mixture of different molecules, each contributing to specific absorption features. The complexity of interstellar space makes it difficult to recreate these conditions in a laboratory, adding another layer of challenge to the investigation. Another possibility is that DIBs are linked to fullerenes, also known as buckyballs. These are molecules made entirely of carbon atoms, arranged in a structure resembling a soccer ball. In 2015, researchers found evidence that some fullerene ions could produce absorption features similar to certain DIBs, sparking interest in their potential role. However, like PAHs, fullerenes alone do not fully explain the full range of DIBs. Some absorption bands appear stronger or weaker in different interstellar environments, suggesting that local conditions influence how these molecules absorb light. Some bands are closely associated with dense dust clouds, while others seem to appear in regions with intense radiation. By studying how these absorption bands change in different regions, astronomers can learn more about the distribution of molecules across the galaxy. Some researchers believe that understanding DIBs could reveal insights into the chemistry of the early universe, as the molecules responsible for these bands may have played a role in the formation of planets and even life itself. Complex organic molecules, including PAHs, have been found in meteorites and comets, suggesting that similar compounds might have contributed to the development of life on Earth. If the same molecules responsible for DIBs are present in planetary systems throughout the galaxy, they could be influencing the chemistry of countless other worlds. Advanced spectrographs on ground-based telescopes and space observatories like Hubble are allowing researchers to analyze DIBs with greater precision. Meanwhile, laboratory experiments are recreating the conditions of interstellar space, testing how different molecules absorb and emit light under extreme temperatures and pressures. Scientists are also using complex simulations to predict how molecules interact with radiation in space, comparing these models with actual observations. The study of DIBs is a reminder that even in an era of advanced astronomy, some cosmic mysteries remain unsolved. Until their true nature is revealed, they will remain one of the great unanswered questions of astrophysics. Galactic Whispers: Unraveling Anomalous Microwave Emission. Anomalous microwave emission, or AME, is a strange and unexplained signal that astronomers have detected coming from various regions of the Milky Way. Unlike the well-studied cosmic microwave background radiation, AME appears to originate from within our own galaxy. It has been detected in areas filled with interstellar dust, and while scientists have proposed several explanations, the true source remains uncertain. The first clues about AME came from observations of the cosmic microwave background, or CMB. When scientists studied the CMB in detail, they expected to see a smooth, uniform signal. Instead, they found extra microwave radiation at certain frequencies, especially in areas where the Milky Way's dust clouds are most concentrated. This unexpected signal stood out from the known sources of microwave radiation, such as free electrons scattering off ions or synchrotron radiation from charged particles moving through magnetic fields. Astronomers suspected that AME had to be coming from something common in the interstellar medium. Since the extra radiation was strongest in dusty regions, early theories focused on how dust grains might interact with electromagnetic fields. One of the most widely accepted ideas is that tiny spinning dust grains, possibly only a few nanometers in size, could be responsible. If these small particles rotate rapidly due to collisions with gas molecules or interactions with starlight, they could emit microwave radiation at specific frequencies. This theory, known as electric dipole emission, suggests that these spinning grains act like tiny antennas, producing microwaves as they rotate. Observations of AME match this idea to some extent, but there are inconsistencies. In some cases, the radiation is stronger than expected, while in others, it is weaker. The spinning dust model also struggles to explain certain AME sources found in environments where dust should not be a dominant factor. One of the most unusual detections came from the Helix Nebula, a planetary nebula located about 655 light-years from Earth. The Helix Nebula is mostly made up of ionized gas, with only small amounts of dust. Yet astronomers found an AME signal coming from it. This led scientists to consider alternative explanations, including more exotic possibilities, such as molecular transitions or interactions with dark matter. Complex molecules, such as fullerenes or large organic compounds, could have electromagnetic properties that make them emit microwaves. These molecules might be common in the interstellar medium, but difficult to detect through other means. If they interact with radiation in unexpected ways, they could produce signals that mimic AME. Another possibility is that AME is linked to certain plasma processes. The interstellar medium is not just a collection of gas and dust. It also contains magnetic fields and high-energy charged particles. Some studies suggest that interactions between these elements could generate the observed microwave signals. In this scenario, AME might be related to turbulence in interstellar plasmas or unknown properties of cosmic magnetic fields. Some theories suggest that dark matter particles might decay or interact in ways that produce faint radiation, including microwave emission. If true, AME could provide indirect evidence of dark matter interactions within the Milky Way. However, this idea remains highly uncertain, as no clear link between dark matter and AME has been established. Astronomers continue to study AME using both ground-based and space-based observatories. The Planck satellite, which mapped the CMB with extreme precision, provided some of the most detailed observations of AME to date. By comparing Planck data with measurements from radio telescopes, scientists have been able to pinpoint the locations and intensities of AME across different regions of the Milky Way. One of the challenges in studying AME is separating it from other sources of microwave radiation. The Milky Way is filled with different types of electromagnetic emissions, including synchrotron radiation from cosmic rays, thermal radiation from ionized gas, and emissions from interstellar molecules. Disentangling these signals requires careful analysis and detailed modeling of each contributing factor. Instruments like the Square Kilometre Array and next-generation space observatories could provide higher resolution data, allowing scientists to test different hypotheses more thoroughly. If AME turns out to be linked to an unknown molecular process, it could provide insight into the composition of the Milky Way's dust clouds. If plasma interactions play a role, it could change how scientists model the dynamics of the interstellar medium. If AME has connections to dark matter, it could offer clues about one of the biggest unanswered questions in cosmology. But for now, the nature of anomalous microwave emission remains an open question. Bronze Enigma, the mysterious artifacts of Sanxingdui. In 1986, archaeologists in China discovered two large sacrificial pits in the Sichuan province, near the city of Guanghan. Inside them lay thousands of ancient artifacts, including massive bronze masks, intricate gold ornaments, jade tools, and elephant tusks. These objects did not resemble anything from known Chinese dynasties, and they pointed to an advanced culture that had been lost to history. This was the Sanxingdui civilization, an enigmatic Bronze Age society that flourished around 3,000 years ago before vanishing without explanation. The scale of the find was unprecedented. The bronzes in particular stood out. Some of the masks were massive with exaggerated facial features and strange protruding eyes. Others had a striking resemblance to human faces, but seemed to depict figures from an unfamiliar culture. Alongside the masks, towering bronze sculptures of standing figures, ornate animal-shaped vessels, and detailed ceremonial artifacts hinted at a civilization with highly developed artistic and metallurgical skills. The sheer complexity of these bronzes was astonishing. They were cast using sophisticated techniques that were far ahead of their time, showing a level of craftsmanship that suggested an advanced understanding of metalworking. Before its excavation, historians believed that early Chinese civilization was centered around the Yellow River Valley, where the Shang dynasty had left clear records of its existence. The artifacts from Sanxingdui, however, suggested the presence of an entirely separate cultural and political center in the southwest of China. This civilization had no known written records, and its people seemed to have developed their own unique artistic and religious traditions. The presence of such elaborate bronze work challenged the idea that early Chinese metallurgy was confined to the regions associated with the Shang and Zhou dynasties. Unlike the Shang dynasty's bronzes, which were primarily ritual vessels with inscriptions, the Sanxingdui artifacts displayed a more sculptural quality. The masks and figures were cast in single pieces or in carefully joined sections, requiring a deep understanding of mold-making and metalwork. Some of the largest statues, such as a nearly 2.6-meter tall standing figure, were crafted using techniques that required extreme precision and control over high-temperature metallurgy. These techniques were far more advanced than what was expected from a Bronze Age society. Adding to the mystery, there were signs that these objects had been deliberately destroyed before being buried. Many of the artifacts showed evidence of burning, smashing, or breaking before being placed into the pits. This led researchers to believe that the pits were not simply storage areas, but rather sites of ritual sacrifice. The presence of elephant tusks, which were not native to the region, suggested that the people of Sanxingdui engaged in long-distance trade or had access to rare and valuable resources. Some scholars speculated that the destruction of these artifacts could have been part of a religious ceremony or a response to a sudden crisis that forced the people to abandon their city. More excavations were conducted in the years that followed, and in 2021, 6 additional pits were uncovered, revealing even more extraordinary objects. Among them was a large bronze altar, complex golden masks, and jade ceremonial items. These new finds reinforced the idea that Sanxingdui was not an isolated culture, but a highly developed and interconnected society. Some of the newly discovered artifacts suggested links between Sanxingdui and other ancient Chinese cultures, including the later Shu kingdom. However, many aspects of their beliefs and practices remain unknown. The massive masks with exaggerated eyes and large ears do not resemble the artistic styles of other Chinese civilizations from the same period. Some researchers have proposed that these features might represent spiritual or mythical beings, possibly deities worshipped by the Sanxingdui people. Others have suggested that the large eyes could symbolize a focus on vision and perception, perhaps reflecting religious or shamanistic traditions. Around 1000 BCE, evidence suggests that the site was suddenly abandoned. There are no records of a war or invasion that could explain their disappearance. Some theories propose that an earthquake might have caused the nearby Minjiang River to change course, cutting off the city's water supply and forcing its inhabitants to move elsewhere. Others believe that political changes or conflicts could have led to the decline of the Sanxingdui culture, with survivors possibly merging into other civilizations in the region. Aqueducts of the past, Dholavira's ingenious water systems. Dholavira, one of the most important archaeological sites of the Indus Valley Civilization, stands as a testament to ancient engineering. Located in the arid region of present-day Gujarat, India, this ancient city flourished over 4,500 years ago in an environment that posed serious challenges for human settlement. Unlike other well-known Indus Valley sites such as Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, Dholavira was built in a semi-desert landscape where water was scarce for much of the year. Despite this, the people of Dholavira developed an advanced water management system that allowed their city to thrive in conditions that would have been inhospitable without careful planning and innovation. The most striking feature of Dholavira's urban design is its intricate network of reservoirs, channels, and drains. These structures were not just for basic water supply, they were part of a sophisticated system that harvested and stored rainwater, while also managing drainage and flood control. The residents of Dholavira carefully planned their water system to make full use of seasonal monsoons, ensuring that water was available even during the long dry periods. This level of foresight and engineering precision indicates a deep understanding of hydrology and environmental adaptation. At the heart of the city's water system were massive reservoirs carved directly into the bedrock. These reservoirs were carefully positioned throughout the city, some placed near the citadel, and others scattered across different sections to distribute water efficiently. Some were over 10 meters deep, with steps leading down to allow easy access to water at different levels as the supply fluctuated. The sheer size of these reservoirs suggests that they were designed to sustain a large population for extended periods, even during droughts. Water was collected through a complex system of channels and drains, which directed rainfall and runoff into these reservoirs. The people of Dholavira built dams and bunds to regulate the flow of water, preventing wastage and ensuring that as much as possible was stored for later use. These structures were strategically placed to capture water from nearby streams and seasonal rivers, demonstrating an advanced understanding of landscape engineering. Unlike many other ancient civilizations that relied primarily on nearby rivers, the residents of Dholavira developed a self-sustaining system that could function independently of a permanent water source. The city's layout incorporated slopes and gradients, allowing water to flow naturally into reservoirs without the need for pumps or manual transport. This method ensured that water collection was efficient and required minimal labor, a crucial advantage in an environment where every drop of water was valuable. In addition to large reservoirs, the city had an intricate drainage system to prevent flooding and maintain sanitation. Stone-lined drains and underground channels carried excess water away, reducing the risk of stagnation and contamination. The drains were covered with stone slabs, an early example of urban infrastructure that would later be seen in much later civilizations. Excavations at the site have revealed evidence of water filtration methods, including sedimentation tanks that allowed heavier particles to settle before water entered the main reservoirs. This practice indicates an early understanding of water purification, an impressive achievement for a Bronze Age civilization. It suggests that the people of Dholavira were not just concerned with gathering water, but also ensuring its quality for drinking and daily use. The water management system of Dholavira was deeply integrated into the city's social and economic structure. Water storage and distribution were likely controlled by local authorities, ensuring that all residents had access, while also maintaining reserves for agriculture and emergencies. The ability to store and regulate water would have given Dholavira a significant advantage over other settlements in the region, allowing it to grow and sustain a large population, despite the harsh environment. The city was divided into different sections, including a citadel, a middle town, and a lower town. Each of these sections had its own reservoirs and water storage facilities, ensuring that water was available throughout the settlement. Some of the most impressive reservoirs were located near the citadel, suggesting that water management may have been overseen by the city's elite or ruling class. The Dholavira water system highlights the engineering skills and problem-solving abilities of the Indus Valley civilization, showing that they were capable of designing infrastructure that was not only effective, but also sustainable. While other ancient civilizations built large-scale irrigation systems based on rivers, Dholavira's residents created a decentralized system tailored to their specific environment. This approach ensured that they could survive in a region where water availability was unpredictable. The decline of Dholavira, like many other Indus Valley cities, remains a mystery. Some theories suggest that climate change played a role, with shifts in monsoon patterns leading to prolonged droughts that made it increasingly difficult to sustain life in the region. Others believe that socio-political changes or external pressures could have contributed to the abandonment of the city. Whatever the cause, the advanced water system that once sustained Dholavira eventually fell into disuse, leaving behind the remnants of a once thriving civilization. The remains of Dholavira's water infrastructure, the reservoirs, channels, and drains that once kept the city alive, now stand as silent reminders of a society that mastered its environment through careful planning and engineering. The study of these ancient systems continues to offer valuable insights into sustainable water management, a lesson that remains relevant in modern times as civilizations around the world face increasing water scarcity. Sky scripts, the overlooked Nazca geoglyphs and celestial alignments. The Nazca lines stretch across the arid plains of southern Peru, forming a vast and intricate network of enormous geoglyphs. These ancient figures, etched into the desert floor, depict animals, plants, and geometric shapes that can only be fully appreciated from above. While their purpose remains one of the great enigmas of archaeology, recent studies have turned toward the sky, exploring the possibility that the Nazca lines were not just works of art, but markers of celestial alignments. The Nazca people, who flourished in the region between 200 BCE and 600 CE, left behind no written records to explain the significance of these designs. Many of the geoglyphs stretch for hundreds of meters, with some lines extending across the desert for kilometers. The process of creating them was deceptively simple, removing the darker, weathered stones from the surface to reveal the lighter soil underneath. Despite their simplicity, the precision and scale of these markings suggest a highly organized effort. One of the prevailing theories is that these geoglyphs had astronomical functions. Some researchers propose that certain lines may have been aligned with important celestial events, such as solstices, equinoxes, and the rising or setting positions of key stars and planets. The idea that ancient cultures used large-scale alignments to track time is not new. Civilizations around the world, from Stonehenge in England to Chichen Itza in Mexico, incorporated astronomical markers into their architecture and sacred sites. Some straight lines appear to align with the points where the sun rises or sets on the summer and winter solstices. If this is true, it suggests that the Nazca people may have used these lines as a vast astronomical calendar, marking the passage of seasons. Given that their survival depended on scarce water sources in an extremely dry climate, tracking seasonal changes would have been crucial for agriculture. The famous hummingbird geoglyph, one of the most recognizable figures in the Nazca Desert, has been compared to the constellation Cygnus, also known as the Northern Cross. Others suggest that the monkey geoglyph could be associated with the Big Dipper, a constellation used for navigation and timekeeping by many ancient cultures. If these geoglyphs were meant to reflect star patterns, they might have served as a terrestrial representation of the night sky, mapping celestial movements onto the desert floor. Some scholars have theorized that the lines were part of ritualistic practices tied to celestial bodies. Ancient Andean cultures placed great importance on the concept of sek lines, sacred paths that connected ceremonial sites. These paths often had astronomical significance, guiding processions or marking important cosmic events. If the Nazca lines functioned similarly, they may have been walked along during rituals, reinforcing a link between the heavens and the earth. Supporting this idea is the fact that some of the geoglyphs resemble figures seen in Andean mythology. The spider geoglyph, for example, bears a striking resemblance to a species of spider known for its connection to rainfall in local folklore. The Nazca people may have associated celestial movements with weather patterns, using their geoglyphs as part of a broader system of understanding and influencing natural cycles. Researchers have used satellite imaging, aerial photography, and 3D mapping to study the Nazca lines in greater detail than ever before. These tools allow scientists to analyze how the lines align with celestial bodies over long periods, accounting for shifts in the night sky due to the precession of the Earth's axis. As technology improves, it may reveal more precise connections between the geoglyphs and astronomical phenomena. Not all scholars agree with this interpretation. Some argue that the lines were primarily religious or ceremonial in nature, serving as pathways for processions or as offerings to deities. Others believe they may have been related to water rituals, given the importance of water in the Nazca region. While astronomical alignments may exist, they may not have been the primary reason for the creation of the geoglyphs. The desert environment where the Nazca lines are located has played a crucial role in their preservation. The dry climate and lack of strong winds have helped keep these markings intact for over 1,000 years. However, modern threats such as erosion, climate change, and human activity pose increasing risks to their survival. Efforts to protect and study these geoglyphs continue, as researchers seek to unravel their full meaning while ensuring their preservation for future generations. Decoding the Pillars of Ashoka. The Pillars of Ashoka, attributed to the Mauryan Emperor Ashoka in the 3rd century BCE, are scattered across the Indian subcontinent. While they are often recognized for their inscriptions, which promote the principles of Dharma and good governance, the symbolic carvings on them are less discussed. These symbols, from animal motifs to geometric patterns, reveal deeper layers of meaning that extend beyond the written words. The most striking feature of the pillars is the capital, often adorned with intricately carved animals. The most famous among these is the lion capital of Sarnath, which has been adopted as the national emblem of India. This capital features 4 Asiatic lions standing back to back, an image that has been widely interpreted as a representation of strength, courage, and leadership. But beyond their imposing presence, the lions may also hold deeper philosophical meaning. In Buddhist tradition, the lion is associated with the Buddha himself, as his teachings are described as the lion's roar, a powerful truth that resonates across the world. Beneath the lions on the Sarnath capital is a circular abacus featuring a series of animals: a bull, a horse, an elephant, and a lion, each separated by a wheel or chakra. Scholars have debated the meaning of these figures for centuries. Some suggest they represent different stages of the Buddha's life, while others believe they symbolize the 4 directions, indicating the spread of Dharma across the land. The chakra itself is of particular importance. In early Buddhist symbolism, it represents the Dharma chakra, or the wheel of law, signifying the movement of righteous rule and the cyclical nature of existence. Not all of Ashoka's pillars feature lions. Some, like the one at Rampurva, depict a single bull resting atop the shaft. The bull has been linked to fertility, strength, and determination, and in the Buddhist context, it can also represent patience and effort on the path to enlightenment. In Hindu traditions, the bull is associated with Nandi, the mount of Shiva, indicating that the symbolism of these pillars was open to multiple interpretations by those who viewed them. Another key feature of these pillars is the polish on the stone itself. The highly refined, mirror-like surface of the pillars was achieved through an advanced technique that remains a subject of study. This polish not only enhanced the visual appeal of the pillars, but may have had symbolic significance. In many ancient cultures, reflective surfaces were associated with purity, clarity, and divine revelation. Unlike many monumental structures that are concentrated in major cities, Ashoka's pillars were erected in various parts of his empire, including places of religious and political importance. Some were placed near Buddhist monasteries, while others were positioned at crossroads or along trade routes. This suggests that they were meant to be seen and read by a wide audience. The inscriptions on the pillars, written in Brahmi script, offer a glimpse into Ashoka's policies and personal beliefs. While these texts are relatively straightforward, expressing his commitment to non-violence, ethical governance, and compassion, the visual elements of the pillars add another layer to their meaning. For instance, the use of lotus motifs at the base of some pillars ties into themes of spiritual awakening. The lotus, which rises from the mud to bloom in the sunlight, is a common symbol in Indian traditions, representing purity and enlightenment. Geometric patterns on the pillars also hold potential significance. Some feature bands of repeating designs, such as rosettes or interlocking shapes, which may have been more than decorative elements. These patterns are found in other ancient cultures as well, and are often linked to cosmic order and balance. The stone used for many of the pillars was quarried in one region of India, then transported across vast distances before being erected in their final locations. This not only demonstrates the engineering capabilities of Ashoka's time, but also suggests a deliberate effort to create a unified visual language across his empire. Over time, some of these pillars have suffered damage or been displaced, yet their symbolic power endures. Fragments of broken capitals and inscriptions still provide insights into the ways Ashoka used visual storytelling to communicate with his people. The fact that his symbols continue to be used in modern India, from the national emblem to the presence of the Ashoka chakra on the national flag, speaks to their lasting impact. Despite the scholarly attention they have received, there are still unanswered questions about the pillars of Ashoka. Some researchers continue to explore whether certain motifs on the pillars have deeper connections to earlier Indian traditions or even influences from outside cultures. Others look at the possibility that lost pillars or inscriptions may yet be discovered, offering further clues about the thought process behind their design. The interplay between text and imagery in the pillars of Ashoka highlights the sophistication of ancient Indian communication methods. At a time when literacy was not widespread, the use of strong visual elements ensured that even those who could not read the inscriptions could still grasp the essence of the message. The choice of symbols, materials, and placement all point to a carefully crafted strategy to reinforce Ashoka's ideals in a way that would resonate with a broad audience. The dawn of ritual, Göbekli Tepe's obscure origins. Göbekli Tepe rises from the dusty hills of southeastern Turkey, its towering stone pillars casting long shadows over a site that predates Stonehenge by millennia. Buried for thousands of years and only rediscovered in the 1990s, this ancient complex challenges long-held beliefs about the origins of civilization. Archaeologists have determined that it was built around 9600 BCE, at a time when humans were still primarily hunter-gatherers, yet its massive limestone pillars, intricate carvings, and circular enclosures suggest an organized society capable of complex construction and spiritual expression. Unlike other ancient sites associated with early settlements, Göbekli Tepe appears to have been a place of ritual, a sacred ground where early humans gathered not to live, but to worship. The site is dominated by massive T-shaped pillars, some standing over 5 meters tall and weighing up to 10 tons. These pillars were arranged in circular formations, with a pair of larger central stones at the heart of each enclosure. They are adorned with intricate carvings of animals, lions, snakes, vultures, wild boars, creatures that were part of the natural world surrounding the people who built the site. Some scholars believe these carvings represented spiritual totems, guardians of the sacred space. Others see them as symbolic depictions of the cycle of life and death, particularly because many of the animals depicted are scavengers, feeding on the remains of the dead. The people who built it had no metal tools, no wheels, no domesticated animals to aid in transporting the enormous stones. And yet, they quarried, shaped, and positioned these megaliths with remarkable precision. Some of the pillars are carved with reliefs so finely detailed that they suggest a level of artistic and symbolic sophistication far beyond what was previously believed possible at this early stage of human history. The presence of multiple enclosures, each carefully arranged and constructed, hints at a long-term effort that spanned generations. Unlike settlements from later periods, where homes, storage pits, and daily use artifacts provide clear signs of habitation, Göbekli Tepe lacks such features. This suggests that it was a ceremonial site rather than a permanent dwelling. People may have traveled great distances to gather here, participating in rituals before dispersing back to their respective regions. This challenges conventional theories that agriculture and permanent settlements gave rise to religious structures. Instead, Göbekli Tepe suggests the opposite, that the need for communal spiritual gathering may have driven humans to cooperate on large-scale projects long before cities and farms became the norm. The ritual significance of the site is reinforced by the discovery of large amounts of animal bones, many of them bearing marks of butchering. It appears that feasting played a major role in the activities at Göbekli Tepe. The presence of wild cattle, deer, and gazelle remains, suggests that hunters brought their kills to the site for communal consumption, possibly as part of religious ceremonies. Some researchers speculate that these gatherings may have been seasonal, occurring during times when food was abundant, and the surrounding groups could afford to convene in large numbers. Sometime around 8000 BCE, the site was deliberately covered with soil, its towering pillars concealed beneath layers of debris. This was not a natural process. Archaeologists have found that the filling was done methodically, with large amounts of rubble intentionally packed into the spaces between the pillars. The reason for this remains unknown. Was it an act of ritual closure, marking the end of an era? Or was the site buried to protect it from outsiders or changing beliefs? Whatever the motivation, the act of sealing away Göbekli Tepe ensured that it remained remarkably well preserved for thousands of years, only to be rediscovered in modern times. Unlike later megalithic sites where large stones were often roughly hewn, the T-shaped pillars at Göbekli Tepe are smoothly finished, their surfaces bearing precise carvings of animals and abstract symbols. Some of the symbols resemble later iconography found in Mesopotamian cultures, raising the possibility that Göbekli Tepe influenced religious traditions that emerged thousands of years later. While most of the carvings focus on animals, a few of the central pillars feature stylized arms and hands, suggesting that they may represent deities or spiritual beings. These anthropomorphic figures lack facial features, which could mean they were meant to be seen as symbolic rather than literal depictions. The abstract nature of these carvings has led to comparisons with later religious iconography, in which gods and spirits are often represented through simplified or idealized forms. If this site was indeed a temple, a place of ritual gathering, then it predates known temples by thousands of years. This means that complex spiritual systems may have developed far earlier than previously believed. The effort required to construct and maintain Göbekli Tepe would have demanded significant social organization, suggesting that early humans were capable of forming large cooperative groups for purposes beyond mere survival. Another question concerns the transition from hunter-gatherer life to settled farming communities. Some researchers believe that Göbekli Tepe may have played a role in this shift. If people were gathering here regularly for ceremonies and feasting, they may have begun cultivating certain plants to ensure a reliable food supply. Evidence of early domesticated grains has been found in the region, suggesting that agriculture may have begun not as a practical necessity, but as a means to support ritual gatherings. If true, this would mean that the roots of civilization lie not in economics or survival strategies, but in spiritual and communal needs. The ongoing excavations at Göbekli Tepe continue to uncover new details about its construction, use, and eventual abandonment. Göbekli Tepe stands as one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of the modern era, a window into a time when the boundaries between the physical and the spiritual world were still being defined. A cosmic map rediscovered the Nebra sky disk's lesser-known facets. Discovered in 1999 near the town of Nebra in Germany, the Nebra sky disk has been widely accepted as an early celestial map, dating back to approximately 1600 BCE. It is considered one of the oldest known depictions of the cosmos. aligning with ancient observations of the night sky. Yet, despite its fame, there are many aspects of the disk that remain enigmatic. The disk itself measures about 30 centimeters in diameter and features a striking arrangement of gold elements embedded in a greenish-blue bronze surface. The most prominent symbols include a large circular shape, believed to represent the sun or the full moon, and a smaller circular form, which could be the moon in a different phase or another celestial body. There are also several scattered gold dots that are generally associated with stars, with one grouping strongly resembling the Pleiades, a cluster of stars known across numerous ancient cultures. In addition, the disk contains two curved gold bands along its edges, which are thought to represent the horizon or the movement of the sun at different points of the year. Studies suggest that the curved gold arcs on the edges align with the sun's setting and rising points during the summer and winter solstices when viewed from the region where the disk was found. This indicates that the disk may have functioned as an early astronomical tool, helping its users determine key moments in the solar year. For Bronze Age societies, such knowledge would have been crucial for agricultural planning, religious ceremonies, and timekeeping. The ability to mark the longest and shortest days of the year suggests a level of scientific awareness that was not previously associated with Central European cultures of this period. Beyond its function as a solstice marker, new interpretations suggest that the Nebra sky disk may encode additional astronomical data. Some researchers propose that the disk represents an early attempt to synchronize solar and lunar cycles, a challenge that has puzzled civilizations for millennia. The lunar calendar, which follows the cycles of the moon, does not perfectly align with the solar year. Many ancient cultures developed methods to reconcile this difference, ensuring that their calendar systems remained accurate over time. The positioning of the symbols on the Nebra sky disk hints that it may have been used to track this discrepancy, offering a potential link to some of the earliest known efforts to create a structured timekeeping system. Another striking feature of the disk is the inclusion of a gold arc at the bottom, which was added after the original design. This feature has been interpreted as a representation of a solar boat, a concept common in many ancient mythologies. In Egyptian cosmology, for example, the sun was believed to travel across the sky in a boat during the day and pass through the underworld at night before rising again in the morning. The presence of this motif on the Nebra sky disk raises questions about the connections between early European and other ancient cultures. Was the idea of a celestial boat independently developed, or does it suggest a transmission of knowledge across distant civilizations? One of the more controversial aspects of the disk is the interpretation of its star pattern. While the resemblance to the Pleiades is widely accepted, some researchers have suggested that the other gold dots might correspond to specific constellations. If this is the case, then the disk could represent a highly specific celestial chart, one that may have been used for navigation or predictive astronomy. Alongside the Nebra sky disk, archaeologists uncovered a collection of other artifacts, including bronze swords, axes, and arm rings. The presence of weaponry could imply that the object was connected to a warrior class, or perhaps that it was part of a ritual burial or offering. The fact that the disk was deliberately buried adds another layer of intrigue. Was it hidden for safekeeping, discarded after losing its relevance, or placed in the ground as part of a ceremonial act? Recent studies of the materials used in the disk's construction have revealed another surprising detail. The gold appears to have come from Cornwall, in what is now England. This suggests that there were trade networks stretching across Europe during the Bronze Age, allowing materials to travel vast distances. If knowledge of the cosmos was being shared along these same routes, then the Nebra sky disk may represent more than just a local innovation. It could be evidence of a broader scientific culture that spanned multiple regions. Despite the many questions surrounding the disk, its significance is undeniable. Its intricate design suggests a purposeful creation, one that required both technical skill and celestial knowledge. If it was indeed used to track the movements of the sun, moon, and stars, then it stands as one of the oldest known examples of a scientific instrument. Stone stories, Valcamonica's rock art, and its secret meanings. The rock carvings of Valcamonica, nestled in the Italian Alps, offer a silent but powerful window into the distant past. Spanning thousands of years, these petroglyphs, estimated to number over 140,000, are among the most extensive collections of prehistoric art in Europe. The figures, symbols, and patterns etched into the rock surfaces tell stories of ancient lives, beliefs, and possibly even forgotten languages. While some carvings seem straightforward, depicting hunters, warriors, or animals, others remain elusive, hinting at meanings that archaeologists and historians have yet to fully decode. One of the most striking aspects of Valcamonica's rock art is its sheer range of subjects. The carvings span multiple eras, with the oldest dating back to the Paleolithic period, around 10,000 BCE. Over time, new generations of artists continued to add to the stone canvases, creating a layered historical record that evolved with the culture and technology of the people who lived in the region. Among the most frequently depicted images are hunters with bows and arrows, suggesting the importance of hunting to these early societies. Scenes of animals, including deer, ibex, and wild boars, appear alongside human figures, sometimes in what seems to be pursuit. The careful positioning of some carvings implies movement, storytelling, or possibly a form of instruction. These images could have functioned as guides, passing down knowledge of hunting strategies or animal behavior to younger generations. But not all carvings are so easily explained. Some appear to show figures in positions that suggest dancing, ritual performances, or even acts of worship. Others depict what seem to be humanoid figures with exaggerated features, oversized heads, elongated limbs, or unusual postures that differ from the more naturalistic hunting scenes. These could represent shamans, spirits, or even deities central to the belief systems of these ancient people. A recurring motif in Valcamonica's carvings is the presence of geometric patterns, spirals, and interconnected lines. Unlike the hunting scenes, which can be interpreted through their resemblance to real-life events, these abstract designs raise more questions than answers. Some researchers believe these patterns could be symbolic, representing tribal identities, maps, or even an early form of writing. One particularly intriguing set of carvings appears to depict weapons and tools that do not correspond to any known archaeological finds from the region. These shapes have fueled speculation that the engravings were used to document evolving metalwork techniques, or possibly even to depict ceremonial or mythological weapons that never existed in a practical sense. Given that the later phases of Valcamonica's rock art coincide with the transition from the Neolithic to the Bronze Age, it is possible that these engravings reflect a changing world, where new technologies and social structures were emerging. An unexpected discovery among the carvings is a series of symbols resembling the sun, often with radiating lines or surrounded by smaller figures. Some researchers have suggested that these could be representations of solar worship, as many ancient cultures revered the sun as a giver of life. Others propose that the carvings might function as primitive astronomical records, marking the changing seasons or significant celestial events such as solstices and equinoxes. Similar carvings have been found in regions as distant as Scandinavia and North Africa. The resemblance between certain symbols, such as stylized human figures with outstretched arms or geometric patterns, suggests that there may have been a shared symbolic language or a common set of beliefs that transcended regional boundaries. The carvings also provide insight into the social structures of the people who created them. Scenes depicting groups of individuals engaged in activities such as battle or communal rituals indicate that these were not isolated hunters, but members of organized communities. Some carvings show what appear to be ranked figures, possibly suggesting leaders, warriors, or spiritual figures who held special status within their societies. This interpretation aligns with what is known from later historical records about early European tribal cultures, which were often led by chieftains or religious figures. Some scholars argue that the petroglyphs served as a form of storytelling, much like oral traditions that have been passed down through generations in many cultures. If this is the case, the rock faces of Valcamonica may have acted as a kind of prehistoric library, recording the myths, histories, and lessons of the people who carved them. Others suggest that the engravings had a more mystical role, possibly serving as part of shamanic practices or religious rituals. The idea that certain symbols or figures represented spirits, gods, or cosmic forces is supported by comparisons to other ancient art traditions. For example, in some indigenous cultures, rock carvings are believed to act as portals to the spirit world or as messages to supernatural beings. If similar beliefs were held by the creators of Valcamonica's petroglyphs, the carvings might have played a role in rituals aimed at securing good fortune, protection, or communication with the divine. Natural erosion, climate changes, and human activity have all contributed to the gradual fading of some carvings. Modern efforts to document and protect these images include detailed photography, 3D scanning, and digital reconstructions, allowing researchers to analyze and interpret the petroglyphs without risking further damage. These technologies have already revealed details that were previously overlooked, providing new perspectives on the meaning and purpose of the carvings. Reflective relics, the Olmec mirrors. The Olmec civilization, one of Mesoamerica's earliest and most influential cultures, is often associated with colossal stone heads and intricately carved jade figures. However, among their many artifacts, one class of object stands out for its unusual craftsmanship: polished mirrors made of iron ore minerals such as hematite, magnetite, and ilmenite. The process of making these mirrors was complex, requiring access to rare minerals, careful shaping, and extensive polishing. The Olmecs sourced iron ore from distant locations, suggesting a well-established trade network and a deliberate effort to obtain specific materials. Unlike the smooth silvery mirrors made of metal in later civilizations, Olmec mirrors had a darker, sometimes almost black appearance. Despite this, their surfaces were polished to such a degree that they could produce clear, sharp reflections. The craftsmanship necessary to create these objects implies significant time, labor, and expertise. Each mirror was carefully shaped. Some were round, while others were oval or rectangular. The backs of many were carved with intricate designs. Some researchers believe the mirrors had a spiritual or religious significance, possibly serving as instruments of divination. In many cultures, reflections were associated with otherworldly visions or gateways to the supernatural. Shamans or religious figures may have used Olmec mirrors to gaze into the unknown, interpreting reflections, distortions, or even light patterns as messages from deities or spirits. The way light interacts with a polished iron ore surface, sometimes creating bright flashes or distorted images, could have reinforced the idea that these objects held mystical power. The positioning of mirrors in Olmec burials suggests they were considered valuable in both life and death. Some were placed near the heads of the deceased, possibly indicating their connection to the mind, vision, or spiritual insight. Others were found near the chest, perhaps symbolizing their role in communication with the spirit world. In at least one case, multiple small mirrors were assembled together to create a single reflective surface, raising questions about whether they were meant to reflect the physical world or something more profound, such as a divine presence. Some researchers have suggested that these objects may have functioned as early optical tools. By focusing sunlight or firelight, a concave mirror can concentrate energy, producing a small but intense point of heat. Additionally, when held at the right angle, a polished surface can project an image onto another surface, similar to how a modern pinhole camera works. If the Olmecs discovered this effect, they may have used mirrors as a way to study celestial movements, signal over long distances, or create ritualistic light displays. A particularly compelling example of Olmec mirrors comes from the site of La Venta, one of the civilization's most important ceremonial centers. Here, archaeologists have found finely crafted mirrors buried in a manner that suggests deliberate placement. Some were found alongside jade figurines, forming part of larger ritual caches. The alignment of these objects has led some researchers to speculate that they played a role in Olmec cosmology, potentially reflecting not just the physical world, but the spiritual one as well. As rare and labor-intensive objects, they were likely owned by the elite. In many ancient cultures, reflective surfaces were associated with knowledge, vision, and insight, both literal and metaphorical. If the Olmecs viewed mirrors as a source of wisdom or divine connection, possession of one could have granted political or spiritual authority. A leader who could see beyond the ordinary world might have been perceived as having a special relationship with the gods or the ancestors. The symbolism of mirrors extends beyond the Olmec civilization and into later Mesoamerican cultures. The Maya, for instance, also crafted polished mirrors and associated them with supernatural forces, prophecy, and elite power. In Aztec tradition, Tezcatlipoca, a major deity linked to fate and sorcery, was often depicted with a smoking obsidian mirror. While the Olmecs predated the Aztecs by many centuries, these parallels suggest a long-lasting cultural tradition in which reflective objects played a role in mythology and ritual. Trade routes of mystery, the lapis lazuli networks. The deep blue stone known as lapis lazuli has fascinated civilizations for thousands of years. Its rich color and rarity made it one of the most sought-after materials in the ancient world, but unlike gold or silver, it was not a metal that could be worked into coinage or tools. Instead, its value was tied to its deep blue hue, which seemed to capture the color of the sky or the ocean. Cultures as distant as Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley prized it, not only for its beauty, but for its spiritual and symbolic meanings. However, what makes lapis lazuli truly remarkable is not just its cultural importance, it is the vast and complex trade network that carried it across continents long before the rise of the Silk Road. Lapis lazuli is found in only a handful of places around the world, with the richest and most historically significant deposits located in the Badakhshan region of modern-day Afghanistan. These mines, some of the oldest in human history, have been worked for over 6,000 years. Despite the difficult terrain and remote location, ancient traders transported this precious stone across mountains and deserts to reach civilizations thousands of miles away. The existence of lapis lazuli in archaeological sites far from its origin suggests a sophisticated system of trade that is still not fully understood. The earliest known use of lapis lazuli dates back to the Neolithic period, with beads and small ornaments appearing in burials as early as 7000 BCE. By the 3rd millennium BCE, it had become a material of high status in Mesopotamia, where it was used in cylinder seals, jewelry, and religious artifacts. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest surviving works of literature, describes the gates of heaven as being made of lapis lazuli. It was a stone reserved for royalty and the gods, a status that remained unchanged for millennia. The presence of lapis lazuli in Sumerian and Akkadian cities suggests that trade routes connecting Mesopotamia to Afghanistan were already well established by this time. Unlike later trade networks that relied heavily on camel caravans, these early routes would have required long journeys on foot and the use of pack animals such as donkeys. The movement of lapis lazuli was likely facilitated by intermediaries, groups of traders who specialized in transporting goods from one region to another. It is unlikely that a single group would have traveled the entire distance from Badakhshan to Mesopotamia. Instead, the stone probably passed through multiple hands, with each trader carrying it part of the way before selling it to another group. One of the major hubs in this network was the ancient city of Mari, located along the Euphrates River. Excavations of the city's royal palace have uncovered large quantities of lapis lazuli, much of it worked into finely crafted inlays and amulets. Records from the city's archives mention the trade of lapis lazuli alongside other luxury goods such as gold, silver, and fine textiles. This suggests that by the time the stone reached Mesopotamian cities, it had already been part of an extensive commercial system that involved multiple regions and cultures. Some of the most famous artifacts from ancient Egypt, including the funerary mask of Tutankhamun, contain inlays of lapis lazuli. The Egyptians believed the stone had protective and magical properties, often associating it with the god Osiris and the afterlife. Despite the vast desert that separated Egypt from Mesopotamia and Central Asia, the presence of lapis lazuli in Egyptian tombs suggests that established trade routes connected these distant regions by the time of the pharaohs. The city of Mohenjo-daro has yielded numerous artifacts made of lapis lazuli, including beads and finely crafted figurines. Some of these artifacts appear to have been produced locally, suggesting that raw lapis lazuli was transported from Afghanistan to the Indus Valley, where artisans shaped it into finished products. The trade routes that carried lapis lazuli across Asia and the Middle East were not only important for commerce, but also for cultural exchange. Along these routes, traders would have encountered different languages, belief systems, and technologies, creating connections between civilizations that might otherwise have remained isolated from one another. This long-distance exchange contributed to the spread of artistic styles, religious practices, and even technological innovations. Unlike later trade networks that left behind extensive written records, much of what is known about this ancient commerce comes from archaeological evidence. The absence of detailed documentation makes it difficult to reconstruct the full picture of how these early trade routes operated. However, the widespread presence of lapis lazuli in so many different cultures suggests a level of connectivity that challenges traditional views of early civilizations as being largely isolated from one another. The decline of the lapis lazuli trade in the ancient world is another subject of debate. Some scholars believe that changes in political structures and shifting trade patterns reduced its importance over time. Others suggest that the rise of new materials, such as glass, provided an alternative to lapis lazuli, making it less essential as a luxury good. Whatever the case, by the classical period, lapis lazuli had lost some of its former significance, though it never disappeared entirely. The stone continued to be prized during the medieval period and was later ground into pigment for Renaissance painters, becoming the famous ultramarine blue used in some of history's most iconic artworks. Submerged secrets, the Sundaland hypothesis. Beneath the shallow waters of Southeast Asia lies a submerged world, hidden beneath the waves for thousands of years. The Sundaland hypothesis proposes that this sunken landscape was once home to an ancient civilization, its lands stretching across what are now the islands of Indonesia, Malaysia, and parts of the surrounding regions. During the last ice age, when sea levels were significantly lower, vast portions of Southeast Asia were above water, forming a connected landmass where human populations thrived. As the ice age ended and glaciers melted, rising oceans swallowed these lands, reshaping coastlines and leaving only scattered islands behind. The theory of Sundaland as a submerged cradle of civilization is rooted in geological and archaeological findings that suggest humans occupied these regions long before recorded history. During the Pleistocene epoch, sea levels were up to 120 meters lower than they are today, revealing a vast continental shelf that connected many of the islands we now see as separate. Rivers that once carved through fertile plains now lie beneath the sea, their courses still visible through underwater mapping. If humans lived in this region when it was dry land, the evidence of their settlements would now be buried beneath layers of sediment on the ocean floor. Fossil remains and tools found in Indonesia and the Philippines point to early migrations, suggesting that populations moved across these lands when they were still connected. Some researchers believe that as the sea levels rose, people were forced to migrate to higher ground, leading to the spread of cultural and technological influences throughout Asia. This dispersal of knowledge and skills could explain why ancient maritime cultures in Southeast Asia developed sophisticated boat-building techniques and navigation skills, traits that might have originated in a once thriving coastal civilization. Many ancient traditions speak of a great flood that wiped out entire civilizations, forcing survivors to flee to distant lands. In Hindu mythology, the story of Manu describes a great deluge that submerged the world, an event that echoes similar flood narratives found in other cultures, from Mesopotamia to China. Could these stories be remnants of real events, memories of a time when Sundaland's lands vanished beneath the sea? The Java Sea, the South China Sea, and the Gulf of Thailand all contain submerged landforms that resemble those found on dry land, suggesting that these areas were once above water. Some submerged caves in this region have yielded prehistoric human remains and artifacts, supporting the idea that people lived there before the waters rose. One of the challenges in proving the existence of a lost civilization in Sundaland is the difficulty of underwater archaeology. Unlike ruins found on land, which can be carefully excavated, structures beneath the sea are often buried under thick layers of sediment or coral growth. Exploring these depths requires specialized technology, and many potential sites remain out of reach. Linguists have noted that the Austronesian language family, which includes languages spoken in Indonesia, the Philippines, and as far as Madagascar and Polynesia, may have originated from a common source in Southeast Asia. This suggests that a thriving society once existed in the region, possibly centered in areas that are now submerged. Critics of the Sundaland hypothesis argue that while the geological changes in the region are well documented, there is not yet definitive evidence of an advanced civilization existing there. They point out that many early human populations were small and scattered, living in hunter-gatherer societies rather than large cities. Without clear signs of urban development, such as extensive ruins or written records, it is difficult to confirm whether Sundaland was home to an organized civilization comparable to those of Mesopotamia or the Indus Valley. Underwater expeditions in the coming years may yield new evidence, allowing researchers to explore sunken landscapes and search for signs of human habitation. With each new discovery, the puzzle of Sundaland takes on a clearer shape, offering glimpses into a world that may have once stood as a vibrant and thriving part of ancient human civilization. Silent stones. The mystery of Sardinia's Nuraghes. Scattered across the island of Sardinia in the Mediterranean Sea are the remains of stone towers known as nuraghes. These massive structures, built using large, roughly hewn stones, have been the subject of intense study and speculation. Nuraghes are found all over Sardinia, with estimates suggesting that there were once over 7,000 of them, though many have eroded or been destroyed over time. Today, around 1,000 still stand, some in impressive condition, while others are little more than ruins. These towers vary in size and shape, but they generally follow a similar design. Large circular structures made of limestone or granite, with thick stone walls that sometimes reach several meters in height. Their interior features a single chamber, sometimes with several smaller rooms, while their exterior often includes a defensive wall or other surrounding structures. The origins of the Nuraghes are deeply tied to the Nuragic civilization, which flourished on Sardinia during the Bronze Age, roughly between 1500 BCE and 500 BCE. This civilization is known for its distinctive cultural traits, including its construction of these impressive stone towers. The first Nuraghes likely emerged around 1800 BCE, and their construction reached its peak between the 14th and 12th centuries BCE. Despite their long history, however, very little is known about the people who built them. The Nuragic people left no written records, and most of what we know about them comes from the study of their architecture, artifacts, and the few inscriptions found throughout the island. The Nuraghes were often built using large stones that fit together so tightly that no mortar was needed to hold them in place. This precise technique suggests a high level of skill in stonework, and the tower's durability and resilience point to an advanced understanding of engineering. Some Nuraghes have been in continuous use for over 3,000 years, and their continued existence attests to the quality of their construction. While some believe that the Nuraghes were built primarily for defense, others argue that their role was more ritualistic. The defensive theory suggests that the towers were used as fortifications, offering a strategic vantage point for watching over the surrounding terrain. Sardinia, with its mountainous landscape and isolated villages, would have made an ideal setting for such defensive structures, and some Nuraghes are indeed located in areas that would have provided clear sightlines to detect approaching threats. This theory is supported by the presence of surrounding defensive walls and other structures, which may have been used to protect the inhabitants of the Nuraghes from invaders. Some Nuraghes are located near natural resources, such as fresh water springs, which would have been important for sustaining a community. These defensive positions, along with their strategic placement in remote areas, suggest that the Nuraghes were more than just homes. They may have been part of a broader network of fortifications that helped defend Sardinia from foreign invaders, such as the Phoenicians or Carthaginians, who were known to have come to the island in antiquity. However, there are other theories that challenge the idea of Nuraghes being purely military structures. Many researchers have pointed out the lack of evidence for large-scale battles or warfare in the vicinity of the Nuraghes. Instead, they argue that the towers may have served as centers for social or religious gatherings. The circular design of many nuragas, for example, suggests that they could have been used for communal rituals or ceremonies. In some nuraghes, archaeologists have discovered altars and other items that may have been used in religious rituals, pointing to the possibility that these structures were places of cultural and spiritual significance. The size and grandeur of the towers suggest that they were built by or for important members of the Nuragic society. The presence of elaborate stonework and finely crafted artifacts in some nuraghes points to the wealth and influence of those who commissioned their construction. It is possible that the nuragas served as a way for local leaders or elites to demonstrate their power and authority over the surrounding communities. The collective effort required to build such structures would have required significant cooperation and organization. The alignment of some nuragas with celestial events, such as the solstices and equinoxes, points to the possibility that these structures were used to track the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. Some researchers have noted that the arrangement of certain nurags seems to correspond with specific astronomical phenomena, suggesting that the Nuragic people had a sophisticated understanding of the heavens. In some areas of Sardinia, groups of nuraghes are located near one another, suggesting that they were part of a larger, interconnected network. These clusters could represent communities of people who lived and worked together, or they could indicate a regional system of power or influence. The way in which these nuraghis are distributed across the island and the connections between them may hold the key to understanding the social and political organization of the Nuragic people. Vanished voices, the lost civilizations of the Dacians. In the dense, rolling hills and dense forests of what is now Romania, nestled along the Danube River, there once thrived a powerful and enigmatic civilization known as the Dacians. Long before the Romans conquered and assimilated the region, the Dacians carved out a rich and sophisticated culture that, for much of history, has remained a mystery. While ancient civilizations such as the Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans have left behind abundant records of their achievements, the Dacians, despite their impressive fortresses and complex society, have been largely overshadowed by their more famous counterparts. The Dacians were not a single unified people, but rather a collection of tribes that shared common cultural traits, language, and religious beliefs. Their homeland, known as Dacia, spanned parts of modern-day Romania, Moldova, and surrounding areas, including parts of Bulgaria, Serbia, and Hungary. This region, characterized by its rugged mountains, vast forests, and fertile plains, provided the Dacians with natural resources that helped them flourish for centuries. The Dacians were known as formidable warriors, skilled metalworkers, and expert builders, leaving behind a legacy of fortifications and artifacts. Perhaps one of the most impressive remnants of the Dacian civilization is the series of hilltop fortresses that still dot the landscape of modern Romania. These ancient Dacian fortresses were strategically built atop steep, difficult-to-access mountain peaks, offering protection from invaders while providing a commanding view of the surrounding landscape. The Dacians were well aware of the natural defenses offered by their mountainous terrain, and their fortresses were designed to take full advantage of these features. The fortresses were constructed with massive stone walls, watchtowers, and complex entryways that would have made them difficult to breach. These fortified settlements, many of which are located in the region known as the Dacian fortresses of the Orasti Mountains, were recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site in 1999. Inside these fortresses, archaeologists have uncovered evidence of Dacian life. Remains of homes, workshops, and religious structures have been found, offering insight into the daily lives of the people who lived there. The Dacians were skilled in a variety of crafts, including pottery, textiles, and metalworking. They were particularly known for their ability to work with iron, and their warriors were armed with finely crafted weapons such as swords, spears, and shields. The Dacians were also skilled in making intricate jewelry, including gold and silver ornaments, and their craftsmanship was highly regarded. Much of what we know about them comes from external sources, particularly the writings of Roman historians and military leaders. One of the most significant sources of information about the Dacians comes from the Roman historian Pliny the Elder, who described them as fierce and warlike people who were known for their strength and resilience. Pliny's accounts, however, were often based on second-hand reports and may have been exaggerated for dramatic effect. The most famous account of the Dacians comes from the Roman Emperor Trajan, who led a series of military campaigns against the Dacians in the early 2nd century AD. These campaigns, known as the Dacian Wars, were instrumental in expanding the Roman Empire's borders and securing valuable resources, particularly gold, which was abundant in Dacia. Trajan's victory over the Dacians was commemorated in the construction of the Trajan's Column in Rome, a towering monument that depicts scenes from the Roman conquest of Dacia. The column is one of the most important sources of visual information about the Dacians, as it provides detailed depictions of their clothing, weapons, and fortifications. However, despite the Roman victory, the Dacians did not disappear entirely. They were gradually assimilated into the Roman Empire, with many Dacians adopting Roman customs, language, and religion. Yet, the Dacians' unique identity continued to persist, albeit in a more fragmented form. Over time, their culture and language were absorbed into the larger Roman world, and much of their history was lost or forgotten. They were a polytheistic people, and their gods and deities were closely tied to nature and the elements. Evidence of their religious practices can be found in the form of stone carvings, statues, and sacred sites that were likely used for rituals and ceremonies. One of the most famous religious sites associated with the Dacians is the Temple of the Sun at Sarmizegetusa Regia, the capital of the Dacian kingdom. This site, which was part of a larger complex of buildings, is believed to have been a center for religious ceremonies, and the Dacians are thought to have worshipped deities related to the sun, the moon, and the stars. Archaeological evidence suggests that they practiced cremation, with the remains of the deceased being placed in urns and buried in tombs. In some cases, the Dacians also placed offerings of food, weapons, and jewelry with the deceased, likely in the belief that these items would be needed in the afterlife. The Dacians also believed in the concept of the soul's immortality, and some of their burial practices were designed to ensure the safe passage of the deceased into the next world. Despite the lack of written records, the Dacians' influence can still be felt in modern-day Romania and surrounding regions. The Dacian language, although largely extinct, left its mark on the Romanian language, which contains many words of Dacian origin. Additionally, the Dacians' cultural heritage continues to be celebrated in the region, with numerous festivals, events, and archaeological projects dedicated to preserving their legacy. The mysterious and intriguing aspects of the Dacian civilization continue to inspire exploration and debate, with many scholars seeking to uncover more about this lost culture. Excavations at sites such as Sarmizegetusa Regia, the capital of the Dacian kingdom, have revealed a wealth of artifacts, including pottery, tools, and weapons, that offer valuable insights into the daily lives of the Dacians. These findings have helped to fill in some of the gaps in our understanding of the Dacian civilization, but much remains unknown. As archaeologists continue to study these ancient sites, it is likely that new discoveries will continue to emerge, revealing more about the Dacians' history, culture, and beliefs. Obscure astronomical alignments, Nabta Playa. In the heart of the Egyptian desert, far from the well-known monuments of the Nile Valley, lies a site that has quietly intrigued archaeologists and astronomers, Nabta Playa. This ancient site, often overshadowed by the grandeur of the Great Pyramids and the temples of Luxor, is considered by many to be one of the earliest examples of astronomical alignments. Nabta Playa is located in southern Egypt, near the border with Sudan, and consists of a series of stone structures scattered across a vast barren plain. What makes the site particularly fascinating is the complex arrangement of large megalithic stones, some of which form a series of circles, alignments, and markers that seem to align with specific celestial events. The site consists of various structures, but the most notable feature is a stone circle, sometimes referred to as the Nabta Playa stone circle. The arrangement of these stones closely resembles that of a much smaller version of Stonehenge, with one particularly large stone in the center surrounded by smaller stones placed in a circular formation. This configuration has led some researchers to speculate that Nabta Playa could have served as a type of calendar, helping ancient people track the cycles of the sun and moon, and perhaps even predict celestial events such as solstices and eclipses. Unlike the more sophisticated astronomical instruments that would emerge in later civilizations, the structures at Nabta Playa were rudimentary, yet still remarkable in their ability to connect human activity with the movements of the cosmos. The stone circle is positioned so that it aligns with the sun during the solstices. On the summer solstice, for example, the rising sun would pass through a gap in the stone circle, casting a shadow on a nearby stone marker. This kind of alignment indicates that the site's creators had a sophisticated understanding of solar movements and used the stones as a way to track the changing of the seasons. One of the most intriguing features of the site is a series of standing stones that may have been used to track the movement of the stars across the night sky. Researchers have suggested that these stones were placed with remarkable precision to mark the positions of key stars, such as Sirius, which played an important role in the ancient Egyptian calendar. The heliacal rising of Sirius, which occurs just before dawn and marks the beginning of the annual flooding of the Nile, was of great significance to the ancient Egyptians. It is possible that the people of Nabta Playa were using the stars to track the timing of agricultural cycles, just as the Egyptians would later do with their own astronomical systems. A range of different stone structures are found at the site. These include stone circles, alignments, and even what appear to be large standing stones or megaliths that are arranged in a line. Some of these structures appear to be designed for specific astronomical observations, while others may have had more practical purposes, such as marking pathways or acting as boundary markers. One of the most compelling theories about the site is that it was a center for early human astronomy, an observation point where ancient peoples could gather to study the stars and the movements of celestial bodies. The use of megaliths and standing stones for astronomical purposes is not unique to Nabta Playa. Other ancient cultures around the world, such as those in Europe, the Americas, and Asia, also constructed stone circles and other markers to track celestial phenomena. But what sets Nabta Playa apart is its relative obscurity and the fact that it predates many of the more famous astronomical sites by thousands of years. The precision with which the stones are aligned suggests a deep understanding of the cosmos and the natural world. It is possible that the people who constructed the site were not only observing the stars, but also using their knowledge to shape their daily lives. The alignment of the stones with celestial bodies could have been used to mark important events, such as religious festivals, agricultural milestones, or seasonal changes. One of the more exciting possibilities is that Nabta Playa could be a precursor to the larger, more famous astronomical sites that would emerge in the ancient world. Some researchers have suggested that the site was an early experiment in megalithic construction, a testing ground for ideas that would later be refined and perfected in more advanced cultures. If this is the case, then Nabta Playa could represent a missing link in the history of human astronomy, a bridge between primitive Stone Age cultures and the more sophisticated astronomical systems that would later emerge in ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, and beyond. Unusual isotope signatures in ancient ceramics. Ceramics are traditionally studied by their shape, design, and decoration. Researchers can determine a lot from the visual aspects, such as the style of the piece, its use, and the culture that produced it. However, the chemical composition of pottery, which is largely invisible to the naked eye, has begun to reveal deeper layers of information. Using modern analytical techniques, such as mass spectrometry, X-ray fluorescence, or XRF, and neutron activation analysis, or NAEA, scientists can examine the isotopic signatures in the clay and glazes of pottery. These isotopic signatures are like a molecular fingerprint, providing clues about where the materials used to make the pottery came from, and potentially, how they were prepared. One of the most striking findings in the study of ancient ceramics is the discovery of unusual isotopic signatures that challenge the conventional understanding of ancient manufacturing processes. In particular, certain ceramics from ancient cultures display chemical characteristics that suggest they were not made from locally sourced clay, or that the materials used were altered in ways that were previously unknown. For example, some pottery from the ancient Near East has been found to contain isotopic signatures that do not match the known compositions of local clays. This suggests that these pots may have been made from clay or minerals imported from distant regions, or that potters were using specific additives or materials that altered the chemical makeup of the pottery. The movement of raw materials, such as clay or minerals, over long distances could be indicative of complex trade systems that were operating well before the advent of written records. In some cases, the materials used in the pottery might have come from sources that are now lost to history. For instance, some ceramics from ancient Egypt have been found to contain isotopes that match materials from the distant regions of Nubia or the Levant, suggesting that trade routes were already well established, even before the rise of the great empires. In other cases, the unusual isotope signatures in ancient ceramics might point to the use of special techniques or manufacturing methods that have since been forgotten. Ancient potters were known to experiment with their materials, mixing different types of clays or adding various minerals to create unique textures, colors, and finishes. The unexpected presence of certain elements in the pottery could indicate that potters were not simply using raw materials from the earth, but were also incorporating rare or exotic substances that altered the chemical properties of the ceramics. This might have been done for aesthetic reasons, to create a particular color or pattern in the pottery, or for functional purposes, such as improving the strength or heat resistance of the pots. One particularly fascinating example of this phenomenon comes from the study of ceramics from ancient China, where researchers have discovered that certain pottery from the Han Dynasty contains unusually high levels of a rare isotope of strontium. Strontium is a chemical element that occurs naturally in the Earth's crust, but its isotopes vary depending on the geological source. The presence of this particular isotope in the pottery suggests that the clay used to make these pots was sourced from a specific region, one that had a distinct geological signature. This raises the possibility that ancient Chinese potters had access to specialized clay deposit, or that they were trading with distant regions that had unique mineral resources. It could also mean that potters were intentionally selecting certain clays based on their properties, possibly to achieve specific qualities in the finished product. In some cases, ceramic artifacts from ancient cultures have been found to contain isotopic markers that suggest they were exposed to high temperatures or unusual firing techniques. The high concentration of certain elements in these ceramics suggests that they were fired at temperatures higher than those typically used in ancient pottery making. This could indicate that ancient potters were experimenting with advanced firing techniques, perhaps to improve the durability of their pottery or to create more intricate designs. Some researchers even speculate that ancient potters may have been using early forms of glaze or surface treatments that involved the use of metal oxides or other chemicals to create a polished or glossy finish. A striking example comes from the study of pottery found in the ancient Minoan civilization on the island of Crete. Analysis of the ceramic materials has revealed unexpected chemical signatures that suggest the use of materials from distant locations, such as the volcanic islands of the Aegean, or even from the far reaches of the Mediterranean. While ancient potters may not have had the scientific knowledge that we possess today, they had an intuitive grasp of how different materials interacted with one another and how they could be manipulated to create specific effects. The unusual isotope signatures found in some ceramics suggest that ancient potters were skilled chemists in their own right, capable of manipulating the natural world to achieve their artistic and practical goals. How did these ancient potters acquire the knowledge to manipulate materials in such advanced ways? Did they learn through experimentation, trial and error? Or were there ancient traditions of knowledge sharing that spanned across cultures and regions? The isotope signatures found in pottery may hold the key to answering these questions, providing a window into the lost world of ancient craftsmanship and technological innovation. Meteoric mysteries, ancient artifacts forged from cosmic iron. For most of our early development, humans did not have access to iron, using stone, bone and wood to craft tools and weapons. The Iron Age, which began roughly around 1200 BCE, marked a major shift in human civilization. Iron tools were stronger and more durable, and the ability to smelt iron revolutionized societies around the world. But what many don't know is that long before the smelting of iron became widespread, ancient cultures had access to a rare and special form of iron, meteoric iron. Meteorites, when they crash to Earth, are composed of metal-rich materials, primarily iron and nickel. These metals, in their raw form, are vastly different from the iron extracted from Earth's ore, and their origins in outer space made them particularly significant. Ancient civilizations that came into contact with these fallen rocks must have been struck by their strange, otherworldly nature, and they would have certainly noticed the shimmering metallic properties that set meteoric iron apart from the iron they were familiar with on Earth. Many cultures around the world crafted tools, ornaments, and even weapons from meteoric iron, and in some cases, these objects were considered so special that they were revered or linked to the divine. One of the earliest known examples of meteoric iron use comes from ancient Egypt, where the use of iron from meteors dates back to around 3000 BCE. Ancient Egyptians called this metal iron from heaven, recognizing that it was not of the earth. The first known metal artifacts from Egypt, such as beads, were created from meteorites. These early Egyptians, with their rich tradition of symbolism and reverence for the divine, would have seen the arrival of such a metal as a sign of favor from the gods. One of the most famous examples of meteoric iron in ancient Egypt is the iron beads found in the tomb of Tutankhamun. These beads, along with a dagger made from meteoric iron that was placed by his side, are believed to have been crafted from a meteorite that fell to Earth long before the time of his burial. The dagger itself is of particular interest to scientists and historians, as it was not only made from a rare material, but also designed with an exquisite level of craftsmanship. In Mesopotamia, particularly in the ancient city of Ur, pieces of meteoric iron have been found in the archaeological record, indicating that the Sumerians and their neighbors were familiar with the material. Some of these objects appear to have been used as tools, while others were crafted into ornamental objects. Given the scarcity of meteoric iron, it's likely that it was reserved for special purposes, and it may have been associated with kings, warriors, or religious leaders. In the region of Anatolia, particularly at the site of Bogaskoy in modern-day Turkey, several iron artifacts made from meteoric iron have been found. These artifacts, dating back to the Hittite period, include both tools and jewelry. The Hittites were known for their advanced metallurgy, but their use of meteoric iron suggests that they may have had a particular reverence for this rare material. In addition to its symbolic and spiritual significance, meteoric iron also served practical purposes in many ancient cultures. Its strength, durability, and rarity made it a valuable resource for crafting tools and weapons. The Egyptians, for example, used meteoric iron to create knives, daggers, and even spearheads, all of which would have been prized for their sharpness and strength. In Mesoamerica, the Olmecs and other cultures may have used meteoric iron to create blades or ceremonial objects that could only have been crafted with the assistance of such a rare and powerful material. The ancient peoples who worked with meteoric iron likely did not have the technology to smelt iron from ores, as this process was developed much later in history. Instead, they would have relied on the natural properties of meteoric iron, using it as it was found, sometimes shaping it through cold working or hammering. In this way, meteoric iron may have served as a bridge between the stone tools of the past and the iron tools of the future, representing an early experimentation with metalworking that would later lead to the widespread use of iron. There is still much to be discovered about how these artifacts were used and what role they played in the spiritual and political life of ancient societies. The connection between extraterrestrial materials and human craftsmanship is a fascinating thread that runs through many of the world's ancient cultures, and each new discovery about meteoric iron deepens the mystery of how these civilizations viewed the cosmos and their place in it. As we continue to unearth artifacts made from meteoric iron, we uncover not just the technological prowess of our ancestors, but also their awe and reverence for the celestial forces that shaped their world. Which ancient mystery did you find the most fascinating? Send us your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like and subscribing. Thanks for watching.